head of service. Now, I have a little surprise for my co-founder of Taiwan Observer.
Hey man, what's going on here? What is that?
Well, yesterday was your birthday, so I decided to have a little celebration, you see. I didn't go for like a cake from 85 degrees or I don't know, from other bakery. I just decided to make you this ceremonial cake made out of your favorite drink. So, happy birthday.
Thank you. It looks like
Happy birthday to
looks like
you.
the thing you do for the bye-bye, you know?
I'm gonna sing for you and you're gonna think of a nice little wish.
I'll think of a wish.
Happy birthday to you.
Hey.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mr. Boo. Happy birthday to you. All right.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
think of a wish. All
right. But if I tell you my wish, it's not gonna come true, right? So I'm gonna keep it up here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it right up here.
But guys, yeah, but you brought it up. This is actually where my inspiration is coming from. In Taiwan, it's a funny story because in Taiwan, when you go to a funeral outside of a house, it's mostly like in a tent. You see like columns made of drinks, and then
some sort of sculpture made of a drink.
Yeah, just columns here, columns out. It's like Wei Dalis, right? Those Taiwanese sodas, and then you have like Taiwanese beer and columns of them. So yeah, I decided to make like a little cake. So actually put some effort. Not I didn't like just go to a shop, spend some money, and then I've got like a little, not very good, not very decent, not very fashionable cake. I just, actually went into some effort and made you this.
It's my favorite drink, so I'm happy. I'll be drinking this drink for weeks, I guess.
I know. And but another funny story is like I've been actually doing it till quite recently. That like sometimes there's like a car going across the city, across the whatever community, and there's like a cacophony, right? There's like a blue truck just going racing through town, and it goes all sorts of sounds, right? All sorts of sounds. And I've been living in Taiwan for like 13 years, going 14, right? Long time, but I didn't kind of make mental connection. That was like probably 2 years ago. I didn't make like mental connection that this is actually a track that introduces a funeral. So I used to show this to my daughter, and my wife would be like very angry and say, why are you showing that to our daughter? Like there's probably gonna be like a ghost that's gonna haunt her. So like, yeah, that's a funny story with these funerals. Yeah, man.
So you're saying, what are you saying with this? I'm one step closer to the grave now, huh?
I think well, I don't know. I don't think so. Well, to tell you the truth, since you brought it up, I never actually thought of it, but like there are skeletons on it. So like,
yeah.
And there's like this Noche de la Muerte, right? So like I think that's where the inspiration for this is. Oh my God, I'm sorry, man, for giving you such a gravely.
No, I'm not superstitious. I don't
gravely cake, but then
I don't care. It's all good. Thank you so much for the cake.
Yeah,
man.
bro. Good, yeah.
But now we've got a spiel about what this is about out of the way. Let's tell the people what's going on here. Well, basically, we're making a new show. We're going to be telling stories from our time here in Taiwan, since we're both long-term expats here, and this is our home essentially. So we want to take a look at what's going on in Taiwan and just give some stories, things that came to us during the week. Not particularly news stories. If you want to find news stories, turn on the TV, you can open your phone, find a couple of articles from Taiwan News or from CNA or one of those places. But what we're talking about here is we're going to be making a show just talking about our experiences and what's going on in Taiwan in general. So first things first, you've got something for us here today.
Yeah. But before we go, maybe you want to tell viewers the name of our show?
Observations with the Boys. And that's us.
Yeah.
We're the boys, and we're making some observations.
That's right. Anyway, guys, so the first segment of observations with the boys is products. Okay, so today I'm going to introduce 2 products. Usually I'm only going to be introducing 1. Today, since we are having this candle on the top of this mortal cake, I am showing you this. And this is what you can avail in a lot of stores around Taiwan. There is like those little department stores. You can get them there, or
小北百货。
对，生活百货，生活百货, or you can, if you don't have one near you, you can go to like what's that, Temple Supply Store. And then this was $20 only. And then here you have how many candles? You have 6 candles inside, and this is how they look like. And these are candles used for ceremonial purposes in temples. And I think they just stick them and just leave them there at the altar. That's what I think they do with them. I'm sorry, I'm not a regular at one of those temples, but I think that's how they reuse. I might be wrong. I might not be wrong. I mean, when a lady was selling them to me as a birthday candle, she couldn't stop laughing. So I think, yeah, that was positive. I mean, she was insisting on giving me this other one with like some like patterns, but I was like, nah, that'll do. That'll do. That's right out the alley. So like, yeah, this is a typical product. This is a very classical product that you can find in Taiwan, and I'm sure you can find it also in communist China. And yeah, it's for the purpose of a ceremony at a temple, or probably in a house. Like if you have like a shrine in a house, you can use this.
Yeah, or if someone's funeral or ghost month, you'll probably see these around a lot.
Yeah, these guys, $20. There's different sizes. Like there's little ones that are for 15s. There's bigger ones for like literally just only $30. Way bigger ones. So yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're an expert and if you kind of don't care, you can use them around your house, I guess. I mean, I don't know. If you're not superstitious, right? So you can use them.
But since Taiwan is pretty superstitious, maybe don't put this on a Taiwanese person's birthday cake. You might get you might get a funny look, and
yeah,
they might find it a little bit disrespectful.
Only Joseph or only Joseph does it. So yeah, don't kids, don't do this at home. Okay?
All right, let's see the product number 2. What's the other one?
Okay, well,
I heard it's something that smells pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so the product number 2, that's like, I'm just gonna show you very quickly how it looks like to our Taiwanese viewers or long-term expats in Taiwan. This will like straight away after you see this, you're gonna recognize this product. If you're exposed to this, have a look.
What's it called? Ming Sing Florida water. Florida water.
I think it's floral.
No, it says Florida.
Does it say Florida?
It might be a It might be.
Okay. Right.
It might be a
Florida
a mistranslation. But anyway.
It doesn't.
So what is it about?
Yeah, like when I was going. Okay, so like I actually discovered this not a long time ago as well. And I went to one of those 1950s stores, so like stylized on 1950s stores in Taiwan, where you can buy all sorts of products from just right after when Taiwan was taken over by nationalists, by the Kuomintang. And then I was introduced to this product, and this product is basically, in Mandarin is 民生 which I would translate as some kind of a, I don't know. Well, let's forget about what it is, but how it is called and about the moniker. What it is basically is like a fragrant water, like a scent, but it's really intense, and it's not necessarily perceived as like really nicely smelling. I mean, it may smell like some cheap perfume that some grandma probably used, or straight up loo, right? Or I don't know, you're gonna call it toilet, washroom, bathroom.
Some bathroom spray or something like that.
Yeah.
All right.
So look at that, like the bottle, the neck of it is really really small. So have a look. You can smell it. It's probably the first time you're smelling it, right?
Smells
intense,
just like a bathroom.
Yeah, right.
Like smells a little bit like baby powder.
I guess like a cheap one from 1980s, right? 明星花露水, So what you do with this, if there is like some, I mean, you can, if you like this smell. Actually, I'm not a hater of this smell. I'm not like a massive fan. But like there was some smell I couldn't get rid of in my kitchen after I put some onion in one of the drawers. So I put this in there, and the smell was just like gone. Like I sprinkled a little bit there, and the smell was gone in a flat out space of literally 10 minutes. I went this morning, smells like that. Here it says in my name, 越陈越香. Like the longer you put out, the longer it's fragrant and it smells good. So basically, if you have like a smelly toilet or a house basically that needs a bit of a scent, put this out, sprinkle this a little bit of this in the corners here and there, and you're gonna have this old school 1950s smell to it. So one more time, this is 明生花露水. I bet it's you know, like a time machine that takes you back in the day, and then you can smell just like a Taiwanese grandma would prefer to have her house to smell. So
it's really interesting. Thanks for sharing with us.
Man. And that bottle like that, this is $85. There are bigger bottles, like tiny little bit bigger than that, 110, and like a big one is 200. So 250, I think, 240, 150. So they also cheap, not expensive.
Yeah, on the cheap side.
On the cheap side, because this stuff is gonna really, like, it's really intense. You sprinkle a little bit, and it remains fragrant for a long time. So
very nice.
So
cool,
yeah,
man. Thanks for sharing with us. Appreciate you bringing all these goodies for us to check out.
No problem, mate. No problem.
All right, so we're gonna move on to some stories talking about moving from old to new. We're gonna talk about things that are happening around Taiwan, like specifically gentrification in Taiwan. If you've lived in Taiwan as long as we have, you've seen Taiwan explode into the modern era from just a few years ago to now. The things have changed so much, so drastically. So you were talking to me about a house in Danshui before.
That's right. But since you started to talk about this, I want to quickly think about two locations, like for example, Nankan, is to reside. Change dramatically and drastically, like from place that kind of like resemble like a kind of agricultural land, it changed into like a land of skyscrapers. The same goes for Luzhou, where it was kind of deserted back in the day, just like literally 10 years ago. Now, again, the same thing, full of skyscrapers. So then Tianmu, there was this lady, her apartment was up for demolition, and she contacted people online, and she said like she's got a bunch of stuff at her house, and then she invited me to pick up an old bed and some other stuff there. And like I've asked her what's happening, and the same story. I mean, they need land, and the land is being repurposed for purposes of new apartments, and they're going to demolish her old apartment, and they're going to build a new one. So as you see, the gentrification is happening all over the place, and especially in the places like Tianmu, because that's an expensive area.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about the whole gentrification thing is that in just a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, Taipei was the most expensive place in the world to buy property, right? In the entire world. But now the Taiwanese government has spent a lot of time and effort to bring down the prices. Because the reason the prices were so high was there was such little supply, because it took so long to get approval to build one of these skyscrapers with multifamily housing in it. So what happened was they decided, okay, instead of taking 3 to 4 years to approve one of these large projects, they would start a special program just for these large apartment buildings, which would cut the time down from 3 to 4 years to getting licensed and starting construction to only 18 months, because they were running out of place for people to live. So they just did this, and now you see all across Taipei, for instance, every time I cross a bridge, there's some new skyscraper going up, and the skyline is changing dramatically just over the past 5 years of me living in New Taipei and commuting between New Taipei and Taipei. So it's already, you can see it everywhere. And not only that, every single time they build a new MRT line with the new MRT stations on it, the houses around there get renovated, or they get bought up by big companies who are putting in large apartment buildings because the land around that area is now more accessible, and it suddenly becomes more valuable. So all of these things you can see around Taiwan. Another thing that I've noticed just on my street, and this is a joke I like to tell people, this is hilarious. I think it's so funny when you notice gentrification in Taiwan. What is gentrification in Taiwan? For me, the beginnings of gentrification in Taiwan is the example on my street. There was a High Life, an old dingy High Life, and then right next door to that High Life, they built a brand new sleek 7-Eleven.
It's nice.
And then 2 weeks later, they shut down the High Life, started renovating the High Life, and within 2 weeks, they opened up a brand new High Life.
It's even nicer.
And they're literally next door to each other, and they're not even 100 meters away from another 7-Eleven. So that's, in my opinion, that's how you see gentrification in Taiwan, when competing convenience stores open up right next to each other.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, because on Shidalu, when you saw gentrification going on right since, or before, probably way before when I arrived. When I arrived to Taiwan, the first place where I lived was Shida Road, and there is literally 7-Eleven and Family Mart facing each other on corners of a little alley like that. So like, I think gentrification there was going on for a long time. But then this point about supply of houses is interesting, because you said that was happening in 2015. Now in places like Nankan, where I'm often around, in Taoyuan, for example, as well, this is also the case, which is that there are a lot of houses, a lot of apartments, a lot of the skyscrapers, there's blocks of flats, big high rises, apartment high rises, and they're basically, a lot of them are empty. So supply is there, and the demand, I'm not sure if it's that huge, but a lot of them are bought out, but like a lot of them just stand empty. So
investment properties, you know, people buy them and they wait and they wait and they wait until the property is worth more. But a problem with Taiwan housing market right now is that if you're buying one of these expensive new high-rise buildings, you might lose 5% over the next 5-10 years owning that. So it's sort of a toss-up, you know. Maybe you get lucky and you get in a spot that really breaks out, or you're just going to stay stagnant on the housing prices, maybe even lose a couple of percentage points. That's something that happened to the famous Hangguoyu. Yeah, the Korean fish, as people like to call him.
A very expensive house, right? Like,
yeah, he bought a very expensive house, and then he ended up losing 5% or so on the house. And there was some scandal with some loans for that house and whatever. But that's old news. We're gonna move on from that.
So I just want to like bring this question, since you're like better at math in general than I am. Like some people online, I saw these opinions that like renting house, I mean buying a new house in Taiwan is kind of silly if you're not well off, because renting it is just probably gonna land you in a better situation, because you don't have to get yourself in debt, and then like renting it's not gonna be more expensive. It's probably gonna be cheaper than buying it. Would you agree with this?
I think in Taipei specifically and New Taipei, this is 100% true. I have looked into what mortgages are, how much what the rates are for mortgages, and the property prices, because I was interested in buying a property and then renting it out on Airbnb and covering the mortgage with the Airbnb money. But at the end of the day, when I looked at the numbers, just renting it out regularly, like buying an apartment and then renting it out for, let's say 17, 18,000 NT a month. Depends on how big the apartment is, but anywhere that's new, you're probably not going to be able to make your money back because you're paying 30, maybe 40,000 a month in mortgage or something like that.
So
right? Even on a 30-year mortgage, it's still quite expensive, right? So it's better to buy in a place like where you were talking about earlier, Nankan, around Taoyuan, because Taoyuan property prices aren't crazy yet. They're moving there, but you can buy a decent sized house for a decent amount of money, and it'll be almost comparable. It's probably still much more expensive, but it's almost comparable to renting an apartment in Taipei.
Wow.
Okay, so a mortgage in Taoyuan is almost the same as renting an apartment in Taipei. So depends. Are you willing to do the trek every day if you work in Taipei? It might be worth it. It might just be worth to live in the outskirts of Taipei, Taoyuan somewhere.
Oh, there's always Linkou in a place.
Yeah, like Linkou, you're probably paying on your mortgage Taipei rent prices for a similar type house. Wow. You know what I mean?
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right then. Anything else you would like to add to today's show?
Yeah, there is another thing I would like to talk about. I love when people talk about Taiwan in international news, right? I think you like that too, especially when something like the New York Times writes about Taiwan. So recently there was a very interesting New York Times article. Maybe you guys have read it already. I think the title went something like, Taiwan is pound for pound the most important country in the world right now.
That's correct. Yeah, that's
okay.
A great title.
And I think this is true in many ways. And the one point that the guy was picking up on that I've been trying to get the message across to people for many years is that Taiwan is so important to the the global semiconductor and chip making industry, the global tech supply chain. It is so important for this global tech supply chain that if China or any other country wants to cause trouble for Taiwan, they're not only going to cause trouble for Taiwan, but for the rest of the world. Let's say China does decide to, we're going to come and invade. I think the reason they don't invade is because they will kill their own economy. They will destroy any tech manufacturing they have. They will destroy the semiconductors they need for their military advancements, and then they will, yes, they do have the capabilities, but the yield on semiconductor wafers in Beijing are way lower than the yield they're getting here. And I think the reason for that is because the foundries here are decades old. They've fine-tuned all of these things that they need. They have the expertise. They understand what's happening with the tech, and they have access to American companies' tech, basically. So now a lot of Taiwanese companies can't sell their stuff to China anymore because the US put some restrictions on technology being sold to China, stuff like that, American technology being sold to China. And so it's already creating this decoupling between the two countries. But the reason I think China won't invade is because there is no way, no conceivable way, at least in my mind, and from what I'm reading from this article, is that Taiwan won't be able to, China won't be able to take over without seriously pissing off every other country in the world, because they need Taiwan's chips to stay at the top, to stay relevant, to stay on the cutting edge of technology. If you take Taiwan's supply, if you take Taiwan out of the supply chain, you are seriously hurting all the corporations around the world and all countries where those corporations are based. It's a serious economic damage. And I think the backlash, the economic backlash, not even the military backlash, just the economic backlash of that particular instance, like that particular endeavor would completely destroy any hope for the Chinese economy in the near future at all. So I think that the Chinese government understands this, and so do the American government, and that's why there's this little bit of a Cold War happening here, where America's selling more and more weapons to Taiwan. Taiwan's building more and more of its own weapons because of restrictions of how they can buy, because a lot of countries don't recognize them. So there's a lot of restrictions. So Taiwan is being forced into this military industrial complex. You know what I mean? They're being forced to build out these mass amounts of
but like for example today,
weapons.
They or was it just I think it was just today they produced new corvettes in Ilan.
A type of ship, corvette ship.
A corvette ship, that's right. And then they said, like, in a few years, Taiwan is going to be in position that Taiwan as a country alone is going to be able to supply Western buyers in such ships, and because they developed their own indigenous technology. And just as I was coming here on the radio, I heard that America sold some very important technologies used for building submarines. So that's another thing. Like in a few years, you never know. Like Taiwan is now building its own indigenous submarines. So maybe in a few years, Taiwan is gonna become. I mean, it is definitely on the track to become like a military
industrial complex.
But then maybe it will really materialize before you know it.
Yeah, and I think that the drone technology that's being developed in Taiwan is also quite impressive. And over the next few years, Taiwan is going to be producing its own drones, like drones that can handle a payload, So I think that as long as China keeps barking at us, this is just going to be something that has to happen. The asymmetrical warfare that they're talking about. They want to build up these capabilities to take on an invading force.
Yeah.
So I think in the long run, it's good for Taiwan. And maybe in the far future, it could be bad for Taiwan when that military-industrial complex starts to seep into society and other parts of life. But for right now, it's the only choice we really have.
Unfortunately.
Well, anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today, listening to two guys talk and
observing with the boys.
Yeah, observing with the boys. You've observed what we've observed. We've told you. So come back again, and we'll do it again next week. All right, guys. So this is the end of our show. Thank you very much for watching. If you have anything you want us to talk about on the next episode, leave us a comment. We'll be happy to check it out and maybe include it in the next episode.
That's right. So that's it, guys. This has been
Vincent and
Joseph with Taiwan Observer. And these were observations with the boys. See you guys on the next one. Taiwan Observer out.
Peace.